papers, the Inspector General of Intelligence, Setlomamaru Dintwe, accusing Fraser of undermining investigations into him by interfering with Dintwe's functions and revoking his security clearance. Dintwe claimed that Fraser threatened and intimidated him repeatedly. The State Security Department has reportedly said they will now be looking further into the matter. But what is the presidency as well as the minister doing about these claims? It's an extraordinary story, and ENCA's Nicolaus Bauer is covering it for us. Maybe before we get to what the minister has said and what type of action Cyril Ramaphosa is likely to take, just tell us who Arthur Fraser is, and perhaps more importantly, the amount of power and authority that he wields within the intelligence sphere.
Well, he's gone by many names, as you can imagine a spy master would have, but he is known in media circles as the spy who saved Zuma. We cast our minds back to 2007 and the beginning of 2008, just before Jacob Zuma became President of the Republic. And off the back of the so-called spy tapes, those charges of corruption were dropped against him. Now, the apparent source of those recordings of Bulelani Ngcuka, then head of the MPA, as well as Gauteng head of the Scorpions, Leonard McCarthy, talking about the timing of charges against President Jacob Zuma, they came from Arthur Fraser. You fast forward now the better part of a decade, and he's now the director of the State Security Agency. He's accused of a litany of things, Jeremy, and essentially he stands accused of not ensuring that the State Security Agency and that the National Intelligence Agency are looking after the security of the South African government and its people, but rather being used for nefarious political ends and, of course, also ensuring the interests of corporate bodies.
Where does the Inspector General then fit into this?
So essentially he's been the Inspector General of Intelligence, Arthur Fraser's been the head of the State Security Agency since 2016, and the Inspector General of Intelligence, Dr. Dintwe, he essentially is the only constitutional body that has the power to look into what our spies are doing. So in other words, what's
an oversight role, in other words.
Exactly. And unfortunately, the way things have gone over the years, the Inspector General of Intelligence stands accused, not this one, Dr. Dintwe, but previous, Dr. Fraser and others, they've been accused of fulfilling a role that doesn't really have much power. Now, with Arthur Fraser being accused of such so many things, Dr. Dintwe is essentially tasked with looking into these serious allegations that have been ranging from setting up a parallel spy network within the State Security Agency and a whole raft of things that are very, very scary at this point in time when we're in a new dispensation that is supposedly supposed to sweep clean.
So Dr. Dintwe is flexing his muscles in this respect, but Fraser is having none of it.
Well, essentially, yes. One should come to this conclusion based on those court papers that have been put forward by Dr. Dintwe, alleging that Arthur Fraser is preventing him from delving into these allegations and launching a full-scale investigation into Arthur Fraser and those people around him to surface these allegations. Just one of them being the principal agent network. He stands accused in around about 2009 of setting up a parallel state security body within the State Security Agency that did not look after the security of the South African government and its people, but quite literally just settled political scores.
And did I read the figure of something like 3 billion rand that this, in bills that this particular unit has racked up?
The number that I have is a total of R1 billion over 3 years.
Correct.
Still quite a lot of money at the end of the day to be racking up, supposedly doing very important intelligence work that that should be used to further the ends and the aims of the South African government. But he stands accused of, like I said, settling political scores and looking after corporate interests. And the State Security Minister, Wandipwa Letsatsiduba, has eventually come out and said that she notes these very serious allegations that have been put forward in court papers. She is going to wait for Arthur Fraser to respond in an affidavit. She has assured the South African public that she is looking into the matter and ensuring that governance continues to be above reproach within the State Security Agency. But here's the kicker, Jeremy. She's not going to talk about it again until the matter's been ventilated in court. So I'm dealing with it, but don't ask me about it.
So this also takes a little bit of heat off President Ramaphosa then, or does it?
Well, look, I mean, he's also preparing for a visit to the United Kingdom next week. As you can imagine, I should think that the president has a lot in his in-tray. The leadership style that we saw from President Jacob Zuma was, once a minister has spoken, why do I need to speak about it again? So maybe we might be surprised and see President Ramaphosa address this very serious allegation, because essentially, if you're going to be turning government around and turning away from the previous dispensation, some would argue that the backbone of the Zuma administration was riddled with dirty tricks and support from the State Security Agency, where essentially, politically, Jacob Zuma was seen to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of his foes within, not in the African National Congress, but also government.
And finally, Nicolaas, I'm assuming the chief spook himself is lying low and saying nothing.
Indeed, and at this point
we would expect nothing less.
Yeah, you would expect nothing less, and at this point in time, there's been no replying affidavit. But the only time we've actually heard from Arthur Fraser in living memory, to my mind, was when The President's Keeper, written by investigative journalist Jacques Poe, came out and listed all of these apparently dastardly deeds that he stands accused of being responsible for. He came out and said that the book was nothing, you could be used but nothing more than a doorstop or something to prop up a coffee table, but didn't delve into the actual merits of those allegations, or actually put forward an argument as to why or why not they are incorrect.
All right, Nicolaas Bauer, thank you very much indeed. So that's all very well put for us. So damning allegations are then being made against the State Security boss, Arthur Fraser, as Nicolaas has just mentioned, featuring in Jacques Poe's book, The President's Keepers. In court papers, the Inspector General of Intelligence accusing Fraser, as Nicolaas mentioned, of undermining investigations into him. So with all of those allegations that we've been talking about, here's our daily news poll.